Hello students and welcome to this video lesson. Today we're going to be able to use sine, cosine, and tangent to solve for missing side lengths in right triangles. So if you look at our success criteria, we're going to be able to solve for this variable right here. Notice we can't use what we learned last chapter, like the Pythagorean theorem, first off because we don't have two sides. We can't find the missing third side. And we also can't use our special right triangles, the 45, 45, 90, 30, 60, 90, because notice we have a different angle here. It's not one of those special ones. So this trigonometry thing, this sine, cosine, tangent, is going to help us solve. So in the end, we're solving for how long these sides are. All right, but before we start, you need to make sure you know how to use your calculator because it's really heavily based on your calculator usage. You got to press the right buttons. So pause the video if you need to and make sure everyone in class has a calculator. All right, I'm going to assume you have calculators in front of you. Go ahead and find the sine, cosine, and tangent buttons. Again, pause the video if you need help finding them. The sine button looks like this, S-I-N. Cosine is C-O-S, and then tangent is T-A-N. All right, now you'll notice when you type it in, you have to put something after it because when you type in sine, there's a parenthesis that comes up. You have to type these together. So go ahead and type sine of 55 in your calculator. You should get a really long gross decimal, and I just abbreviated mine to 4 places. That's going to be good enough for everything we do in this class. So hopefully your calculator also says 0.8192. If you have a graphing calculator, it's possible that yours didn't do this. I will show you tomorrow in class how to fix that. So for now, why don't you grab a different calculator? If you did not get this answer, again, make sure you know what's wrong or how to fix it before you move on because you're going to have to use your calculator for every problem. Okay, so this is just a numerical value. This is a decimal place, okay? Now we still need to solve this equation for x. So my favorite method is to put it over 1. And then what have we done with this in the past? Well, we've cross multiplied. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 0.8192 times 17. And then the other side is going to be x times 1. I'll show you that. There it is. So like I said, I went crisscross. And this I can just type in my calculator. So whatever you just had, that decimal, just go times 17 now. And you should get about 13.93. Okay. You'll notice I had 4 decimals up here, but in the end, I only need 1 or 2 decimals. If you give me 1 or 2 in the final answer, that's fine. But you have to have 4 up here when you first type in the sine, cosine, or tangent to make sure it's accurate enough. Okay, let's try it again. So here's another problem. So first, right off the bat, I'm just going to type cosine of 42 in my calculator. So you press the cosine button, it has a parenthesis already. You type 42, close parenthesis, hit enter. And my first 4 numbers were these ones, 0.7431. Okay, then again, every time we're going to put it over 1 and we're going to cross multiply. So I'm going to go 0.7431 times x equals 10 times 1. So that's just 10, and these are just next to each other because I haven't actually done anything with them. All right, well, how do I solve for x here? Because I can't just type this in my calculator. Well, I got to get rid of this 0.7431 thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by 0.7431 because they're going to cancel on this side. So then I'm left with x equals that number. So 10 divided by 0.7431 is approximately 13.46. All right, again, feel free to pause the video if you're getting stuck. Otherwise, we're going to move on and show how to use this in triangles. Okay, so here's a right triangle. Notice I have an angle in the corner that is 44 degrees, and I have 2 side lengths. I'm going to try to solve for this x side length. So the first thing we want to do is use our knowledge of SOHCAHTOA. Remember, this means sine is the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. The cosine is adjacent divided by hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite divided by adjacent. So before we start, we actually have to figure out which of those sides do we have. Well, first off, I know 25 is the hypotenuse because it's the longest side or it's across from the right angle. Next up, x is which one? Well, what I like to do is I like to circle my angle. Okay, so I know which angle I'm talking about. It's always the one with the degree sign in it, okay? Is x next to the 44 degrees or is it across from the 44 degrees? Well, it's next to, which is just a fancy way of saying adjacent. Okay. Notice I didn't label anything on this side because I don't need that side. So I have the adjacent and the hypotenuse side. Which one is that out of SOHCAHTOA and TOA? Well, that's the cosine because it has adjacent and hypotenuse, A and H. So what this means is I'm going to do the cosine of 44. And the reason it's 44 is because you always put the degree sign next to the cosine. So cosine of 44 is, in order, adjacent divided by hypotenuse. So adjacent is x, hypotenuse is 25. So that is my equation. Well, we just practiced how to solve for this, so I'm going to go through it quite quickly. Follow along. I'm going to type in cosine of 44 first. I'm going to get a decimal. It is 0.7183. Okay, confirm that I'm correct. And then, like always, I'm going to put it over 1. And then, when you have two fractions, you can cross multiply. So I have 0.7183 times 25 equals x times 1, which is just x. Go ahead and just multiply that in your calculator. Just go times 25. You should get about 17.98. So again, what that means is this side is about 17.98 kilometers long. That makes sense because if this one's 25, this one looks a bit smaller. So I think I did it right. All right, now we're just going to do it a bunch more times so you get the hang of it. All right, here we go. So first off, what I like to do is I like to circle the angle. So 12 degrees, that's the angle I'm talking about. All right, then we have to decide SOHCAHTOA, so we have to decide opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse. So let's see, x is obviously the hypotenuse because it's the longest side. It's across from the right angle. 7 is either next to or across from the 12. Well, it's across, which means it's considered the opposite. So if I have opposite and hypotenuse that have either variables or numbers on it, that is going to be sine because it's O and H. So I'm going to write for my equation sine of 12 equals, well, opposite goes on top, hypotenuse goes on bottom, so 7 over x. All right, in your calculator, go ahead and type sine of 12. I got 0.2079. I'm going to put this over 1, and I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to go 0.2079 times x equals 7 times 1. Well, to get x alone, I have this 0.2079 thing here. I got to move it to the other side. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So divide both sides by that 0.2079 because these cancel, and I'm left with x equals whatever that is. So in your calculator, you're going to type 7 divided by 0.2079. And I got 33.67. So again, that represents the length of this side. Does that side look like it's about 33? Well, if that's 7, it's definitely longer. It seems reasonable. All right, let's do it again. All right, so step 1, circle your angle. That's how we decide if we're doing opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse, okay? So let's see, x is the hypotenuse. It's clearly the longest one. And 40 is right next to 57, which means it's the adjacent. So adjacent and hypotenuse, A and H. A and H is cosine. So I'm going to go cosine of 57 equals adjacent 40 divided by hypotenuse x. All right, you should be pretty good at this by now. Cosine of 57, you just type in your calculator, and the decimal I got was 0.5446. I'm going to put it over 1, and I'm going to cross multiply. 0.5446 times x equals 40 times 1. Oopsies, wrong button. Well, there you go. You see my next step too. What I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by this decimal because I need to cancel it out. I need to get x alone on that side. So I'm going to go 40 divided by 0.5446. Just ruin it. And according to my calculator, it's 73.45. So that's the length of this side. If this side's 40, this side's definitely longer. Makes sense. All right, let's do it again. Oh, last one. Sweet. Okay, so we are going to circle the angle, 55 degrees. The x is the hypotenuse. The 5 is the opposite or adjacent. What do you think? From the 55, it's across the triangle. Next to would be right here. So this one is the opposite. There it is, opposite. So opposite hypotenuse, O and H is sine. So on my SOHCAHTOA. So I'm going to go sine 55 equals 5 divided by x. Sine of 55 is 0.8192. Put it over 1, cross multiply. So 0.8192 times x equals 5 times 1, which is 5. Okay, I didn't ruin it this time, but you know I got to get x alone. I got to divide by this thing, so I got to divide both sides by 0.1892 to cancel these out. And according to my calculator, 5 divided by 0.8192 is 6.1. So again, this length is about 6.1. All right, well that is my lesson today. I hope that makes sense, and continue through your packet on this solving for sides section. Good luck!